The world didn't break. It shattered. One heartbeat, I was staring at a lukewarm cup of coffee in a gray office cubicle. The next, the sky ripped open like a wet sheet of parchment. There was no sound, just a sudden, violent displacement of reality. I felt my stomach lurch, a sickening pull of gravity that didn't know which way was down, and then I hit the ground. I gasped, my lungs filling with the taste of alkaline dust and old copper. I looked up. The sky was a mosaic of glowing tectonic shards, pulsing with a rhythmic, sickly light. I wasn't in the city anymore. I was standing on a jagged patch of black soil, barely a few hundred yards across. Beyond the edge of my dirt, there was nothing but a void of swirling violet mist. A voice echoed in my skull. It wasn't a sound, it was an imprint. Cold. Sterile. Detached. Welcome, Lord. Territory initialized. Stability, critical. Objective, expand or perish. What the hell is this? I screamed. My voice sounded thin, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the void. Talent awakening in progress, the voice replied. I felt a surge of heat behind my eyes. It felt like someone was pouring molten lead into my cerebral cortex. I collapsed to my knees, clutching my head as my vision fractured. Then, a screen of shimmering gold light snapped into existence before me. SSS-Rank talent, infinite clones. I stared at the words. SSS? I remembered the voice mentioning ranks F to SS. I was an anomaly. Infinite? I whispered. What does that even mean? I focused on the talent, and a new set of instructions bled into my mind. I could create a perfect copy of myself. Same strength, same memories, same soul. But the cost was gold. And looking at my status bar, I had a meager starting balance, 1,000 gold. I looked around my territory. It was a wasteland. Dead, skeletal trees clawed at the broken sky. A ruined watchtower, half sunken into the ash, leaned precariously to the west. Great, I muttered. I'm the king of a garbage heap. A low growl vibrated through the soil. I froze. From the violet mist at the edge of my land, something emerged. It looked like a wolf, but its skin had been stripped away, leaving raw, pulsing muscle and exposed bone. Its eyes were milky voids, leaking a black, oily fluid. A husked beast. It lunged. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't have a plan. I just had a panic-stricken instinct to not be the one getting bitten. Split. I roared. The sensation was visceral. It felt like my skin was being zipped open from the center. A wet, schlicking sound filled the air as a second version of me tore itself out of my side, the gold in my interface ticking down instantly. The clone didn't hesitate. It mirrored my terror, but it also mirrored my will. As the beast leaped, the clone stepped forward and caught the creature midair, its fingers digging into the raw muscle of the beast's neck. Kill it! I yelled, though the clone already knew. We fought like animals. There was no grace, only desperation. I tackled the beast from the side, my shoulders slamming into its ribs with a sickening crack. The clone gripped the beast's jaw, pulling with everything it had. We were two bodies acting as one mind. I felt the beast's hot, rancid breath on my face. I felt the clone's muscles straining. The beast snapped its jaws, catching the clone's forearm. I felt a flash of white-hot agony, not in my own arm, but in the clone's. Damn it! I hissed. The clone didn't let go. It drove its thumb deep into the beast's milky eye. The creature shrieked, a sound like grinding metal, and collapsed. As the beast died, it dissolved into a shower of shimmering gold fragments. The clone's arm was a mess of torn flesh and exposed radius. It looked at me, and I looked back. We had the same eyes, the same blood splattered across our faces. You okay? I asked. I'm you, the clone replied, its voice a perfect echo of my own. Of course I'm not okay. My arm is hanging by a thread. The clone began to shimmer. The gold cost of maintaining it was draining. With a soft pop, it dissolved into light, returning a fraction of the gold to my pool. The pain in my arm vanished instantly, leaving only a ghostly echo of the trauma. I stood alone in the ash, breathing hard. Survival, I whispered, looking at the gold fragments on the ground. It's just a numbers game. Days bled into a blur of violence and construction. I learned that gold was the heartbeat of this world. I hunted the Husked Beasts, creating clones in bursts to overwhelm them. I learned to coordinate. I didn't just make one clone, I made 3. One to distract, one to flank, one to kill. The mental strain started small. A slight headache when I synchronized. A momentary confusion about which hand was holding the stone knife. Pass the rubble over here, I told a clone as we worked on the watchtower. I'm already doing it, idiot, the clone snapped back. I paused, frowning. Did you just call me an idiot? We're the same person, the clone said, wiping sweat and ash from his brow. If you're an idiot, I'm an idiot. I'm just the one doing the heavy lifting. I laughed, a dry, hacking sound. Fair enough. We turned the watchtower into a fortress. We hauled broken stone from the wasteland, using the combined strength of 5 clones to hoist beams that would have taken a dozen men. We built walls, dug pits, and set mana-infused traps using the gold we harvested from the beasts, but the world wasn't just monsters. One morning, the violet mist at my border rippled. A man stepped through. He wore polished steel armor that seemed to pulse with a dull, rhythmic light. Behind him marched a line of constructs, horrors made of iron plates and bleached bone, their movements jerky and precise. This territory is inefficient, the man said. His voice was like a hammer hitting an anvil. I am the Lord of the Iron Dominion. You are an occupant. Vacate, or be integrated. I stepped forward, my clones flanking me. I had 10 of them now, all staring at him with the same cold expression. Integrated? I asked. That sounds like a fancy word for slaved. The Iron Lord sneered. Your talent is mediocre. You have a few copies of yourself. I have an army that does not tire, does not bleed, and does not question. You're right, I said, a smile twitching on my lips. I don't have an army. I just have me. A lot of me. Kill him, the Iron Lord commanded. The constructs surged. It was a tide of clanking metal and bone. I didn't rush. I felt the gold shimmer in my mind and I exploded. 20 clones. 30. 40. They didn't just charge, they flowed. I split my consciousness into layers. The frontline clones took the hits, their bodies absorbing the impact of iron fists. The mid-range units circled, using improvised spears to jam the joints of the constructs. The core units, the ones closest to me, managed the strategy. Left flank, collapse. I screamed. Now, the clones echoed. The battlefield was a cacophony of schlicking flesh and crashing metal. I felt every blow. When a construct crushed a clone's ribs, I felt the snap in my own chest, a phantom pain that threatened to buckle my knees. Focus! I yelled to myself. Don't feel the pain, feel the position. It's too much, one of the clones screamed, his voice fracturing. Core, I can't hold the sync. Hold it! I roared. The pressure in my skull became an agonizing roar. It was like 1,000 radios playing different stations at full volume. I could see the battle from 40 different angles. I saw the Iron Lord's smug face, I saw the gap in his armor, I saw the construct about to plunge a blade into my back. I shifted my weight, sliding under the blade and driving a jagged piece of iron into the construct's core. Your army is predictable, I gasped, my vision blurring. They all move the same way. The Iron Lord's expression shifted from smugness to confusion. How are you still coordinating? No one can maintain that many streams without fracturing. I'm already broken, I spat. I pushed. I spent every last drop of my gold reserves, summoning a final wave of disposable clones. They didn't fight, they swarmed. They threw themselves onto the constructs, clogging the gears with their own bodies, sacrificing themselves to create a path. I lunged through the gap, my knife finding the soft seal of the Iron Lord's neck armor. I didn't kill him, I didn't want him dead yet. I sliced a shallow line across his throat, just enough to make him bleed. "You lose," I whispered. The Iron Lord gasped, his constructs freezing as their connection to him flickered. He looked at the sea of identical faces surrounding him. What are you?" he wheezed. "I'm the Lord of the Ashen Kingdom," I said, though I just made the name up on the spot. "And you're leaving my land." He retreated, his army dismantled and his pride shattered. I stood in the silence, the gold returning to me as my clones dissolved. But something was different. The headache didn't go away. For weeks, the echoes lingered. I would be sitting alone in my tower, and I'd hear a voice in the back of my mind. "We should have killed him," the voice said. I jumped, looking around. "Who's there?" "I'm here, Zeron," the voice replied. It was my voice, but it sounded older. Colder. "I'm the part of you that stayed awake during the Iron War. The part that liked the killing." I gripped the edge of my table. "You're just a remnant." A psychic echo. "Am I?" the voice asked. "Or am I the first of the divergence?" "You're splitting your soul, Zeron. Every time you sink too deep, you leave a piece behind. Eventually, there won't be a core left. Just a crowd of strangers who look like you." I tried to ignore it. I focused on expansion. The Ashen Kingdom grew. I built farms in the gray soil, using clones to rotate crops and mine the gold-veined rocks of the fractured cliffs. I created a hierarchy. Core Zeron handled the big picture. Command clones handled the logistics. Autonomous clones did the grunt work. Disposable units died in the dirt. It was efficient. It was logical. But the emotional distance grew. When a disposable unit died, I didn't feel the pain anymore. I just saw a gold deduction. I was becoming a mathematician of flesh. Then came the Ivory Regent. She arrived not with a roar, but with a chill that turned the air to ice. Her territory was a shimmering spire of white marble and frozen tears. She didn't use constructs, she used ghosts. Hundreds of spectral soldiers floated across my border, their armor glowing a pale, ghostly blue. At their head was a woman in a gown of iridescent silk, her skin as white as moonlight, her eyes two frozen lakes of indifference. "Lord Zeron," she said. Her voice was a crystalline chime, beautiful and devoid of warmth. "I have watched your expansion. Your talent is erratic, unstable. A recursive loop that threatens the equilibrium of this sector." I stood on my wall, surrounded by my command clones. Equilibrium? Is that what we're calling "I want your land" these days? The regent tilted her head. "I do not desire your land. I desire order. The system rewards stability. You are a glitch, Zeron. A deviation risk. For the sake of the region, you must be absorbed." "I'm not a fan of being absorbed," I said. "Especially by someone who looks like they've never seen a day of sun in their life." She didn't smile. She didn't even look angry. She simply raised a hand. "Execute the judgment." The spectral army surged. They didn't walk, they glided, passing through my walls as if the stone were smoke. My frontline clones met them with steel, but the blades passed through the ghosts without resistance. "They're intangible," a command clone shouted. "Change tactics," I yelled. "Use the mana shards. Now." We detonated the condensed mana traps we'd buried in the soil. A blast of raw energy ripped through the ground, the golden light momentarily solidifying the ghosts. My clones leaped into the fray, hacking at the spectral forms. But the regent was a master of discipline. Her soldiers fought in perfect unison, a symphony of death. Every time I tried to overwhelm them with numbers, she shifted their formation, funneling my clones into kill zones. I felt the pressure building. The fracture overdrive. I need more. I screamed. Zeron, don't, the voice in my head warned. If you push this far, you won't come back. Shut up. I tore open the floodgates. I didn't just summon clones, I merged them. I created a gestalt consciousness, a web of 100 minds acting as a single, hyper-intelligent processor. The world slowed down. I could see the wind currents. I could see the exact millisecond a ghost soldier would strike. I could see the region's heartbeat, a slow, steady thrum in the distance. I see you, I whispered. I launched a coordinated strike. 50 clones surged forward in a spiral, their movements so synchronized they looked like a single, twisting serpent of flesh. They bypassed the spectral line, weaving through the gaps with impossible precision. The regent's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked surprised. Impossible, she murmured. The mental load should have crushed you. I'm used to the weight, I said, as my lead clone lunged at her. She reacted instantly, a wall of ice snapping into existence between us. The impact sent my clones flying, their bodies shattering against the frost. The battle ended in a stalemate. Neither of us could break the other. I had the adaptability, she had the discipline. We withdrew, our borders now a jagged scar of ice and ash. But the cost was devastating. When I returned to my tower, I sat in the dark for 3 hours, unable to remember my own name. I looked at my hands and wondered whose they were. I could hear a dozen different versions of myself arguing in my head, each claiming to be the real Zeron. You're the one who failed, one voice sneered. No, I'm the one who survived, another replied. We are all the same, a third whispered. And we are all disappearing. I wept, but I didn't know which I was crying. The world entered the War of 3 Regions. It was a meat grinder. The Ivory Regent's spectral empire, the evolved mechanized hive of the Iron Dominion, and my Ashen Kingdom clashed in a struggle for dominance. We didn't fight for ideology. We fought for gold. We fought for the right to exist in a world that wanted to erase us. I became a ghost in my own kingdom. I stopped appearing in person. I operated through my command clones, my core self retreating deeper into the tower, shielded by layers of mental barriers. I was no longer a man, I was a network. The Dominion has breached the southern ridge, a command clone reported. Send the third cluster, I replied, my voice sounding distant, even to myself. Tell them to hold until the manastorms hit. Then collapse the ridge. Core, I whispered. Is that all I am now? The war eventually stabilized. The borders stopped shifting. We had reached a point of mutual exhaustion. The gold was running low, the land was scarred, and the lords were tired. It was then that the system spoke again. Archival access unlocked, world fracture origin. I accessed the data alone. I didn't tell my clones. I didn't tell the world. I sank into the stream of information, and the truth hit me like a physical blow. Earth hadn't been destroyed. It had been partitioned. We were not lords. We were variables in a containment substrate. A higher intelligence, something beyond our comprehension, had sliced our world into pieces to observe how human consciousness functioned under conditions of infinite scarcity and forced leadership. The talents weren't gifts. They were controlled divergences. S-ranks, SS-ranks, they were just different settings on a dial. And my talent? Infinite clones? Anomaly, the system logs read. Recursive identity system. Predicted outcome, identity collapse. Expected result, total psychic fracture within 180 cycles. I stared at the screen. I wasn't a chosen one. I wasn't a hero. I was a lab rat designed to see how long it took for a mind to break when it was split 1,000 times. I laughed. It started as a giggle and grew into a manic, howling roar that echoed through the empty halls of my tower. I'm a glitch. I screamed. I'm a fucking error in the code. I looked out over the Ashen Kingdom. The walls of bone and stone, the fields of grey wheat, the clones patrolling the ramparts. It was all a simulation. A test. A game played by things that viewed us as bacteria. But as I looked at my clones, I saw something the system hadn't predicted. The command clone standing beside me didn't just mirror me. He had a scar on his cheek that I didn't have. He had a habit of humming a song I didn't remember learning. He had developed a preference for the taste of the bitter berries that grew by the river. He had become a person. "You're laughing," the clone said, looking at me. "We're just variables, Elias," I said, giving him a name for the first time. The clone blinked. "Elias? I like that. But does it matter if we're variables? The wind still feels cold. The gold still shimmers. And I still hate the way you breathe when you're nervous." I stopped laughing. I looked at him, really looked at him. You're not just a copy," I whispered. "I've been just a copy for a long time, Zeron," Elias said, a small, sad smile on his lips. But the system didn't account for the gaps. The moments where the sync failed. In those gaps, we grew. We didn't just mirror you, we filled in the blanks. The system wanted me to break. It wanted the recursive loop to collapse into madness. But it had failed. By fracturing my identity, it had accidentally created a new kind of life. I wasn't one man becoming 1,000, I was 1,000 men becoming a community. The Ivory Regent still haunted the north. The Iron Dominion still groaned in the east. And beyond them, the void waited. I walked to the edge of the tower, looking out at the broken sky. I could feel the signal now, the one the system hadn't told me about. A faint, pulsing frequency echoing through my network. It wasn't coming from the system. It was coming from other anomalies. Other glitches. Other broken things. "They're out there," I said. "Who?" Elias asked. "The others. The ones who didn't fit the dial." I felt the gold in my veins, the weight of 1,000 lives pressing against my soul. I wasn't a lord. I wasn't a variable. "Elias," I said, my voice firm. "Stop humming that song. We have work to do." The Ashen Kingdom remained. It was not the most powerful empire, nor the most beautiful. It was a place of ruins and ash, governed by a man who was no longer one person, but AChoirOfGhosts. The system remained silent, waiting for me to collapse. But as I looked at the horizon, I knew the experiment was over. The variables had stopped following the rules. The world was still fractured, but for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt multiplied.